Da 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 da. Grow age. Hello, everyone. Hello, Magic Mike. Hello, Lemon. Hello, whoever's watching the VOD and whoever's watching this edited. Let me put the music back on. Yes, if you just heard me say that right. This is going to be a edited video because I feel like I need to make a video about this no matter what. I kind of have to. And I also want to do a stream. I can't do a I can't script this. Honest to God, I cannot script my feelings on this film. I have so many thoughts on this movie. Straight off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys, I watched this movie. First of all, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, anyone out there who's watching this. Ladies, gentlemen, those beyond the binary, welcome to another stream with Gruich. William, how you doing? Howdy, folks. Howdy, Gruich. Superman time. Yippee! You on a video? That's right. How's your hair? I think it looks gorgeous. I think it looks gorgeous, Mike. You love soup? I love soup, man. Clark Kent stone a college roommate while he's trying to figure out the name for what he should be as a superhero. Clark, do you want some soup, man? Say that again. Today, I'm going to give you non-spoilers and spoilers thoughts on the film. I would like to start out to say this. I walked around Sydney on Friday morning dressed as a cheap shit Superman. You will see those photos and videos in the edit of this video. You will see it. But for now, just know it basically looked like this with me wearing undies outside my pants. It was fun. A lot of kids stopped me and waved at me and said, "Look, it's Superman," and like did the whole like fist up thing to fly. It was adorable. Made me very hopeful for the next generation that they knew who Superman was. But let me say this. This was my most anticipated film. Actually, you know what? I'm going to turn the music off. I think I'll add music in post because I think I really need to think this through. If you guys want music, listen to some music. Put your Spotify on. Put your Apple Music. Put the YouTube. Open another YouTube tab. Play a little something calm or spicy maybe, just to go along with this stream. Because honest to God, my brain, I have so many thoughts right now, and I need actually, you know, I'll pick more fitting music. Let's see. What's fitting? No, if I want to edit this together, I think I would rather not have music. All right, so no music. It's just going to be my dead thoughts directly beamed into your guys' ears. So here it is. I watched this movie 3 times in 2 days. It came out on Thursday here. It came out July 10th, which is not only a day ahead of America. I'm pretty sure it's technically 2 days ahead of America because of how time zones work. So I got this film before most people did. Except for the Amazon preview people. The Amazon preview people got it about the same time we did. And I think that was for fans who didn't want Twitter to spoil it because us Australians got it before you. Get fucked. But I watched this movie 3 times. On Thursday, I watched it twice. I watched it in the morning and I watched it at night. And I liked it better. I'll say this. I liked it better the second time than the first time. On the Friday, I went into the city. Hey, Donred, how you doing? On the Friday, I went into the city and I watched it on IMAX. And it was gorgeous in IMAX. If you guys want to go see it in IMAX, 100% go see it. Now, to give you guys my simple, no spoilers, barely saying anything about the movie, I will say this. I think everyone should watch this movie, but they should watch it with an open mind and not going in purely to love it or purely to hate it. Sit down, judge it for yourself. I think most people will find that they will at least like the film. Everything I've seen about this movie, the worst I've seen people say is, it's good. And the best I've seen people say is, it saved their life. Like, that is the type of movie this is. This is a film that is very divisive. And I think some of the best ways are in a way that every comic book fan I know on Twitter is talking about it in a way that is very, okay, like, how do we feel about this part? How do we feel about this part? Well, this part's interesting. Well, let's dive into this part. It is some of the most mature conversations I've seen Twitter have in years, and about a comic book film. They actually are talking about it similarly to how people talk about comics. I recently read Kingdom Come for the first time, and after reading it, I was like, that was good, but I have some issues with it. And I looked it up online, and a lot of people had the same thoughts. And the similar discussing points is stuff I'm seeing in this movie. It's people going like, I liked this, but I didn't like this part. I liked some of this part, but I didn't like this. Which is also completely different to how Spider-Man fans usually function. Spider-Man fans just, this is perfect. Everything else sucks. And maybe it's just DC fans. Maybe that's just how Spider-Man fans are. But it was a very, a little bit of everyone's opinion. No one really writing off anyone's opinion and going like, oh, you're an idiot for saying this, or that's stupid. No, it's everyone going, well, I see it this way, but I can understand why you can see it like this. I think they undershot here and overshot here. And that's kind of the discussion I'm seeing for this film. I watched it at a very nice, small local theater. Hell yeah, really good experience. Even outside of the movie, we'll watch it again sometime soon. Hell yeah. It is a beautiful film. I think it is a beautiful film. I'm loving that it's opening up so much discussion like this, because I think the most important thing a film can do is get people talking. It can hit people emotionally, and whether it be positive or negative, and get people to discuss about it and say, well, why did it hit me like that? What's my issues with it? What do I love about it? You know, that's kind of what you want art to do. You want it to touch people, instead of most Marvel movies where you watch it, you go, okay, and then you walk away and forget about it. No one's forgetting about this film. If you walk into this movie, watch it, leave, and go, that was okay, and forget about it, you're something's not right. Because everyone I talk to about this movie has had the same kind of like, oh, like they've had thoughts about it afterwards. Yeah, that weird discourse before it was really toxic, but since it came out, it's been pretty chill. Yeah, I'm seeing it get a bit more, Twitter hard, this is what this is. But before all that, I think when dedicated fans watched it with the Amazon screening and stuff, you had some really chill people who had some really open discussions about what they liked and didn't like. Now, so basically to summarize what I just said, if you're on the fence about watching it, watch it. Definitely watch it. I would encourage anyone to watch it. Because I think if you're looking at it if you're a layman and you don't know a lot about Superman and you just want to watch a superhero movie, you'd love it. If you're a comic book fan and you want to see a new take on Superman, I heavily encourage looking into it, watching it. Now, non-spoilers, to go a bit more in depth about what I think. I'll talk about not spoilers, and then I'll put a big warning on screen saying spoilers. Non-spoilers, these are my thoughts. I think it is a comic book movie. And I know there are so many movies where we say, oh, this really feels like a comic book movie. Oh, it's so colorful and weird. The parts of this movie that feel like a comic book movie isn't that it's colorful and weird. It's that it feels structured like a comic book movie. Some people have said, I think leakers, one of the cast, I can't remember, said this movie is very similar to Star Wars, and they're right. This movie, this might be a spoiler, but it's not a big spoiler. This movie starts with a text that's basically setting up what world we're entering in a very similar way that Star Wars does. It is in media res. It doesn't say, oh, we're going to show you the events from the beginning onward. It kind of starts not halfway through. It starts like a quarter into a story that's already happening. And a lot of people have said that's a negative. Personally, I really like it because Star Wars is the same. Star Wars starts with the ship is being invaded. You have no idea what's going on. Okay, there's a war. There's Sith, and okay, sweet. Just going. You're thrown into this world, and this also feels like a world. The DCU feels like this isn't just like the MCU, which is our world with some tweaks. This is a comic book world that has been going on for centuries. It has such deep and rich lore and history to it, and you see it hinted at and shown throughout this movie. Superman is not the first superhero. And he's not out there. He's like, the reason he's out there and different is because of his actions, not his powers, not his suit. That's all very like, oh yeah, he's a superhero that can fly. Yeah, anyone. There's a ton of those. This is a world that is deeply rich with lore and has had already a bunch of stuff happening. And that to me is very Western comic books. And I saw someone bring this up on Twitter or Blue Sky. I can't remember, maybe Instagram. But it was like, that is an inherently comic booky thing. Because when you're reading, some people say, oh, it's a bit jarring. The critique people say about going into this movie is the same critique I hear people say about comic books. They go into it, they're like, this is jarring. This is a story that's already happening. How am I supposed to know what's going on? And a comic book fan will tell you the same thing. There are enough context clues here for you to figure out what the story is and go along for the ride. And that's what this movie is. This movie feels like there's a new run of this character that's 3 or 4 issues in. And you're like, oh, I forgot to pick up the first 4 issues. I'll pick up issue 5. And you're in issue 5. And stuff's already happened. And the story's going. But you can still follow along. And you can read the next issue and the next issue and the next issue. And you'll get it. You'll get it. And that's comic books. This movie is a great, I think, introduction to how comic books are. It is a world that doesn't stop. The same way our world doesn't stop. There is no entry point to our world. Like, people aren't born into this world and like, okay, now everyone start learning like circles at the same time. Like, hundreds of people already know what circles are. Some people up to spheres and cubes, but you are still learning and picking up as you go. Like, okay, there's circles. Oh, there's spheres. Oh, there's more than that. And sometimes you're shown spheres before you're shown circles. Is this a messy metaphor? God, yes. Do I make sense? No idea. But it does a really good job of throwing you into the woods, and the viewer. Some viewers are a bit like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? But I think as this DCU goes on, people are going to get comfortable with it. I got comfortable with it because, I'm a comic book reader. I'm used to being thrown into like the middle of the ocean and being like, okay, I can swim here. The weird discourse. I'm doing good. I'm gonna wait for Soup to come to either DVD or streaming. That's fair. I don't like going to the cinemas alone. That's fair. For me, I start a show by watching an episode in the middle. Oh, so I'm used to learning from content. Yeah, that's really interesting, Mike. But yeah, it's like that. It really does feel like that, like starting a show in the middle. And there are negatives and positives of that, because there is something that Superman does that is told, not shown to us. But again, that doesn't bother me too much. Because we see the implications of it in the after effects of it. But yeah, it's that feels very comic booky to me. What also feels very comic booky is something that was taken out of the test screenings that they should have taken in, which is already discussed in length on Twitter, which is they were originally, like in the Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad has like chapter titles, like a book, like a comic book. You pick up a new issue, it's got a new title for this chapter. And originally this movie was going to have that. And it needed to have that, I think. It is, you can see where they were going to be. I really hope there is a director's cut of this film, because there's certain things that are cut that we know was filmed and in that I would be interested in seeing come back to this film, because I think they would improve it. I think that they were very worried about this movie doing well, that I think they listened too much to audiences. And in doing so, they added some stuff and took out some stuff that I really think they shouldn't have. Like those title cards. There are no title cards in the movie, but you can feel where they were supposed to be. And I feel like if they were there, it would be a lot cleaner and a lot less jarring. So that's what it also, like I said before, though, it feels like a world already in motion with its own established lore. And with that, it's a world that feels like superheroes are normal. There are points in this movie where there'll be monster attacks or villains attacking Metropolis or whatever, and it's normal. Like, people don't really... Metropolis is like, oh, it's like a fire. Like, if a building catches fire, like, that's a big deal. A building's on fire. People will die. You still gotta go to work. Like, that's how this movie treats, like, aliens, kaijus, whatever. A lot of it is, yeah, well, you still gotta go to work. You still got... Some of the biggest stake stuff is like, that's a big deal. Everyone stops and runs. And some of it is like, oh, there's a kaiju in near Central again. That's gonna mess with traffic. Like, and you just see at one point, you just see superheroes in the background, like fighting a monster, and maybe just being like, oh yeah, that's just another thing. They have it covered. And it's like, yeah, they do. Like, they do have it covered, and that shows to the viewer, and a lot of people have taken from that, and to me, that, you know, this is just a world where this is normal. Superheroes are purely normal. It's a part of this society. And that all feels so comic booky to me. The fact that you also got the fact that you can have such serious, grounded things next to weird sci-fi things, but that are still treated seriously. The ending of this film has two conflicts. One which is based in reality, and I'll get to in a second, and the other which could only happen in a comic book or a out there sci-fi story. Hey Moss, how you doing? It is something that could only happen in a comic book or an out there sci-fi story, and both happen at the same time, and they work because you feel the stakes of both. And you have already, by this film, have led to believe, oh yeah, this is realistic for this world, so I can take it in. I can find that realistic. That's understandable. This movie does a great job at that. I think this movie does a really good job at setting up the DCU as just a world with stories in it. But in saying that, it also it actually does set up a storyline for the DCU that I'm so interested in seeing, that I kind of would rather see than just random stories set in this world. Because Gunn has said, oh, there's a storyline going through, but also some stories are just in this world in the background. And that's great. But the nugget of information this movie gives us of the greatest storyline that this phase of the DCU will have is so inherently fascinating, and is taken directly from a comic I just finished reading, that I am so excited to see where it goes. And it is an inherently political, like, talking point that is going to be just absolutely fascinating to see that string and to see where that string leads. Yeah, my 100% though, it throws you in. Even my sister, who knew nothing about DC, picked up on it really quickly. Yeah, uses common themes and tropes to invite people into without needless origin stories. 100%. I will say, that's another controversial part. That is one controversial part about this film. Is James Gunn is of the belief that people don't need to see a lot of superheroes' origin stories anymore. And I don't entirely agree, because I think each take of an origin story shows what you're getting into with this character, with this story. I think some stories don't need to. Maybe I think it would have benefited if we at least saw Clark coming out of the rocket this film, for an opinion I'll get to later. But I guess this movie didn't need to show Superman's origins, because it does a really good job of just explaining it and showing it to us anyway. Anything else I could say that's non-spoilery? I think the entire cast is fantastic. I think if I was going to say who's the most comic accurate and least comic accurate from what I understand, if I was going to say what's the most comic accurate and least comic accurate of these characters from what I understand of these characters, from what I've seen, Guy Gardner's fantastic. Mr. Terrific takes the fucking movie. This movie, Mr. Terrific owns this movie. In one scene, it is a scene that I think is the most memorable action scene in the film. Is it the best? Maybe not, but it's the most memorable. It's the one that stayed in my head after every time I watched it, and it's the one I get so excited of seeing again. And it's an action scene halfway through that is so quintessentially like, that's a James Gunn action scene. No other director could try to make that, and they would just be trying to copy James Gunn. And that action scene is given to Mr. Terrific. It's incredible. It's terrific. Like, legitimately amazing scene. He's done incredibly well. Hawkgirl, from what I've heard of Hawkgirl as a character, she's a bit undersold here. And yeah, she doesn't have a lot to do. Except for one really cool thing she does at the end. Jimmy is not Jimmy, really. Like, Jimmy is supposed to be this kind of like, almost like Clark. This kind of like, golly, like, bright-eyed, very, like, not the opposite of cynical. What's the opposite of cynical? Like, very optimistic, like, photographer. And he gets so many people to fall for him, and he goes on so many weird adventures because he's kind of like a yes man. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. Why not? Like, he's just very kind and very odd, and goes on a lot of strange adventures. And I don't see this Jimmy doing that. Jimmy is a straight man, and Jimmy shouldn't be a straight man. Jimmy should be the wacky, like, doing some weird stuff, a bit strange, but very charming. And this Jimmy isn't that. This Jimmy's very normal. which is very disappointing. Like, like for the movie, charismatic, interesting, good character. As an adaptation of Jimmy, a bit disappointing. This adaptation of Lex Luthor is next to perfect. It's pretty much perfect. That's Lex. Like, that is Lex. That is the scariest comic book villain we've had in a while. It is one of the most accurate we've had in a while. It is acted incredibly well. All the villains from this movie are damn good. They're pretty damn good. I wish Engineer maybe got a little bit more time. Ultraman, I'll get to. Miss Techmaker. Miss Tech. Her. I really liked her in this movie. Really funny, really charming. But then there's the big two. This is the most accurate Lois Lane we've ever gotten in anything. Full stop to me. Full stop. That is everything Lois Lane should be. Full stop. Perfect. Absolutely perfect rendition of Lois Lane. Next to perfect, Superman. Because it depends on your interpretation of Superman. Because to me, there are two different takes of Superman you can have. That are both, hey, Enraged Carrot, how you doing? There are two different takes of Superman you can have. We're doing non-spoilers right now. The two takes are, and these are two takes that I think are accurate, not inaccurate. There are other takes you can have that I feel like are stepping away from the comic books and kind of the original intentions of the character. There are two takes, one I favor, one I still love. And the movie does one I still love, not the one I favor. And that is a Superman who is loving and caring and kind and soft and noble and a bit of a nerd and a farm boy and gee willikers. And he's that kind of Superman. He is Clark Kent in both ways. Like, Superman and Clark Kent are very people. That's the one issue maybe I will have is that there wasn't enough Clark Kent, and Clark Kent wasn't. There wasn't enough distinct differences between Clark and Superman. Like that was basically the same. Like visually, sure, characteristics wise, they felt like the same person. But it was a Superman that is, if I were to compare it to anything, I would say, Superman of All Seasons is an accurate representation, which is this movie takes a lot of inspiration from. I wouldn't say All-Star Superman. They say this movie takes a lot from All-Star Superman. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it takes that much. I think it takes way more from Kingdom Come than it does from All-Star Superman. Or Superman Birthright in ways that I don't like. And I'll have to get to that. But this version of Superman is a great version. Not my favorite take. I think my favorite take on Superman in live action is still Superman and Lois. Because that is a Superman that is like very lighthearted, very charming, but also is a lot more championing the oppressed, if you know what I mean. I think out of the classic interpretations of Superman, I really like the Golden Age to like Superman and the Mole Man standing up, taking bullets, like crushing guns, and being like, you're all a bunch of cowards, like using your anger to oppress other people, and you just stop. Like, that's my favorite interpretation of Superman. Someone who's kind to people who need kindness and stern and mean to those that deserve it. And I don't see this Superman ever being mean or stern. Stern, maybe, yes, but not necessarily mean. Pardon me. I'm over halfway through reading Superman Birthright, written by Mark Waid. I don't have the book on me. I can't remember who the artist is, which is a shame because the art is fantastic. And that book has a moment where there is a school shooting that Clark interrupts. And after stopping the kids and crushing the guns, he finds out who sold the guns to these kids, grabs a gun, shoots the man, and catches the bullet before it hits him. To basically show, this is the fear you put those children in, and now you will know that fear for the rest of your life. The person doesn't die. The gun seller is fine and gets arrested, but, is fucked up from that, and rightfully so. That's my favorite take on Superman. It is someone that will look at people oppressing, killing, like putting down people and go, you need to know what you're doing. Not just, you should stop that and it's bad and you should do better. It's, you're going to regret doing that. If you're going to hurt innocent people, you're going to regret that. That is my personal favorite take on Superman, which is Superman and the Mole Man. It's the Golden Age era. It is not, it's kind of, Reeves is kind of a good combination of both, because you see that anger in Luthor. He calls Luthor like a maniac and like crazed, which is a take on Superman I like. I like when he's hard to his enemies and his villains, but also open and hard enough to go, well, you have the possibility to be redeemed. Jimmy, I'm not familiar with the character aside from when he's back at a baseball game between Justice League and Legion of Doom, Brand the Bold. Yeah, that's good. But this take on Superman is a bit more maybe Rebirth, maybe Superman Rebirth. No, not even. It is very inspired by the 80s, and if you know 80s Superman, take that as you will. Yeah, you might know what I'm trying to say here. But overall, okay. Anything else I can say that's non-spoilers? I still like this interpretation of Superman. Have some issues with it that I'll get to in spoilers, because I literally cannot discuss it without discussing spoilers. Anything else? The post-credit scenes are fun and cute. I think the first post-credit scene after the flashy texts, I think is important to watch. I think it's a very cute short scene. The last one isn't super important, but it's very funny. It's a good scene. There's two cameos in this. One I knew about, one I did not know about. The one I knew about, yeah, it was sick. I knew it was coming. And we knew about that months away. And it was bound to happen anyway, because something else is happening. And it's like, well, obviously they're going to show up. The other is one I wasn't expecting to show up in this movie at all. And every cinema I've been to laughed their asses off at it. They were like, oh my God, like everyone had the same reaction that I did, which was, oh my God, it's him? That's hilarious. Like, it is a character I didn't even realize a lot of people knew about. What else? Oh, is there anything else I can say that's non-spoiler? Oh, okay, Jimmy, Lex. Oh, non-spoiler, here we go. There are two things in this movie that are inherently political. One is something that a lot of people were assuming from the trailer going in and were worried whether they would handle it right. And the other is something that I don't think Gunn realized would be heavily political. And he fucked up. The first one is the scene we saw in the trailer with the little boy in the flag. I will say this right now. This is probably spoiler, non-spoiler, whatever. A lot of people on Twitter are saying that this movie is very pro-Palestine and very anti-Zionist. And I went into this movie worried, because how are you going to portray that well? How are you going to do that in a big budget blockbuster film? Like, I didn't see that happening. It was. This movie, if you read it as talking about Palestine and Israel, it takes a stance that I have not seen a blockbuster do. Now, I have seen people say you could also read it as other invasions or other political, other invasions, really. Because at the same time of writing that, Russia invaded Ukraine, and you could definitely see some inspiration from that here. But also, a lot of people were bringing up what happened in Palestine in 2018 with, I can't remember the specific word of it, but there was an image someone posted online of Palestinians at the border versus the Israeli army that is very much imagery in this film that you cannot ignore. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gunn took it from a few places, but specifically it does feel inspired by that. And shockingly, I think the movie does a great job of addressing it. The other issue that I think it has a terrible job addressing is to do with the idea of Superman as an immigrant. And James Gunn said before this film, I don't care about cheap viewers, go away. James Gunn said, I love when those two cameo characters showed up. My cinema was filled. Yeah, literally. The first cameo was everyone going like, oh my God. And the second cameo I heard whispers, oh my God. Like a lot of people excited. But the second thing was something I don't think James Gunn fully understood the political ramifications of what he was saying. And I think it's something that heavily harms this film to the point where this would be a 9 out of 10 for me. But now is 7, and sometimes when I think about it a lot, is 6. Dead honest. Sometimes it's 6. It really bothered me, and I can only talk about it with spoilers. So I'm going to put big text on screen to show that I am about to dive into some serious... Some would say this isn't a big deal, big spoilers. I would argue this is a massive spoiler for the film. Spoiler talk now. How do I turn this into... How do I make this... Alignment center? Do that. You can't see that very well. Let me go la 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 la. Let me go image. No, not image. Let me go color source. Bam. Select color. Let me go with the gray. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Actually, you know, let's make that text. Let's make this Superman colored. Why don't we? Why don't we make this Superman colored? There we go. That. And make that. Let's make it a yellow. Will this be gross? Probably. How's it look? Like nothing. Oh well. Okay, I'm gonna talk about spoilers. Let me read the chat first. I love when these two chemical. This is very anti-invasion military incursions, especially the responsible pro military. Yes, Luthor was literally Raython if Elon was in control. Yep. Oh, I might need to skedaddle. No worries. See you, Carrot. Okay. I am so smart. Okay. Spoiler talk right now. If you don't want spoilers for this film, do not watch part. If you do not want spoilers for this film, do not watch past this point. Superman as a character was created by 2 immigrants. People who created the character during a very politically volatile time in history. It was right before World War II. It was when Jews were being... oppressed in Europe, or around the world, honestly, and people had to run from their home countries. It is a story about a refugee who had to escape his own planet. If you don't want spoilers, do not watch further. Yeah. It is about a refugee who had to leave his home planet in order to survive, with his family sacrificing, his family never being able to have a relationship with him personally. He loses any knowledge about where he comes from. He feels this deep regret of not being able to experience that culture, of being able to meet his family, to see what his culture's like. It is a character that, as a second-generation immigrant, I have found very relatable. I have been in situations where I feel this longing of, I wish I was closer to this culture that I only know of through talking of my family. And Clark is someone who only knows about Krypton through talkings of text he's given, through maybe what his father tells him. He will never be there. He will never live there. He is Kryptonian, but a part of him feels like, am I really Kryptonian? Is that, am I worthy to call myself a Kryptonian? It is that feeling that I have felt being with other members of my family who have lived in that country or continue to live or had large amounts of their time in that country, and I have never. I've only maybe been to that country once, or I only experience it from their perspective. And I get this kind of sense of, am I an outsider in this place, in this family gathering? I walk 2 worlds. I'm Australian and I'm an immigrant, from a family of immigrants. And that is the dual identity I hold. I never pick one over the other. I don't say I don't abandon my immigrant side and just say I'm fully Australian. I am just an Aussie. I am Australian. But I also don't go, no, I'm not Australian. I'm not Australian at all. Australia means nothing to me. I am purely this country. These are both of me. To separate one from me is to separate me. Like, that is taking something apart of me that has heavily affected who I am as a person. And Superman as a character, that is, I would say, his struggle of, I feel like an outsider to both humans and to my own kind. That is an innately relatable thing for an immigrant and from a second-generation immigrant. He's also a story that is innately relatable to a refugee. Someone who could not go back to his home and cannot come back to his home. Maybe it's gone. Maybe he simply has no way to go back there. I'm not a refugee, so I can't personally speak from it. But I have read so many cases, and I've read so many people breaking it down of how relatable and how seen they feel in Superman. This movie, to me, throws all of that away. To me, this movie feels inherently insulting, quite disgusting with its political message on that aspect, and is my biggest gripe with this movie that I can already see is having a negative effect online. People are taking the wrong message from it, and it's the message I was worried people would take, and I think it's the message James Gunn didn't think people would take. In this movie, this is the big spoiler, Jor-El and Kara sent Clark to Earth to conquer it. They are aliens who sent their child to another place to invade, reproduce, kill as many people as he can, and lead them. That was disgusting to me. That shocked me. And in the film, they kind of play with the idea that it's fake. Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's this fake message. Because it only happens about 30 minutes into the film. It's a revelation that everyone finds out, even Clark finds out, because Lex goes into the Fortress of Solitude, and Clark has this broken message from his father and mother about what they want from him. And the first half is very hopeful, it's very loving, it's saying, I want you to live out there, I want you to try to make humanity better. And the second half is make it better by ruling them with an iron fist. And it's disgusting. And it kind of makes you think, oh, Lex doctored this. This isn't real. Oh, this is a mistranslation. Hi, Mickey Pure. How are you doing? Why don't we talk about Steve Lombard questioning why he was no Steve? Oh, that was okay. That was sorry. Complete tonal shift right now. That was the funniest joke in the movie. That was Steve is so funny. Steve Lombard was probably the funniest character in that movie. That was no, probably I don't. That was him being like, "What?" That was so funny, incredibly funny. Anyway, my eyes got big when you said, "Yeah." But that's such an interesting take. It does feel like something they'd want to expand more. But yes, but test audiences familiar with Superman wanted something. Well, I don't think it was test audiences. I think this is because let me tell you what they do in the movie. They make it seem like this footage is fake at first. Like Clark says, well, maybe it's mistranslation because Lex translated it. How can Lex translate it? Okay, yeah, he's one of the smartest people in the world, sure, but how? One, two. Okay, maybe the footage is fake. Maybe Lex faked stuff. But then 5 minutes after introducing the movie goes, no, this is real. Because Mr. Terrific says, no, I know these forensics guys. They wouldn't say something's real unless it's real. Which is a little like, huh? But how would they know it's real? First thing. Second thing, Lex admits to the Bulgarian president, and the Bulgaria is the stand-in for Israel in this movie. The Bulgarian president, he admits, no, that's real footage. I don't have to doctor anything. And a part of me knows, as a comic book fan that knows Lex Luthor could be lying through his teeth because he wants the world to believe that Superman is evil innately and an alien here to kill all of us. So I think he would continue to lie about this. Even when he's caught false for other stuff, I think he would continue to lie about this. But the movie had multiple points. My thoughts on these are in 3 points, I think. Okay, interesting. You're going to write them out. Cool. There are multiple points in this movie where they could have debunked this footage. It could have been, at length, something Mr. Terrific started looking into and realizing it was fake. It could have been something that when Lois and Jimmy out Lex in the movie, it could have been something that they found looked at and found out is fake. It could have been at the end of the movie when, again, spoilers, Supergirl shows up, which ruled. But it could have been at that moment that Supergirl could have seen the footage and goes, that's because Supergirl, the thing about Supergirl that people might not know is she was a child or teenager already when Krypton was about to blow up. And she was sent as such. And she was sent at the same time as Clark. But her ship got lost around the sun. And it put her in stasis, and she didn't age for years and years and years. So, when she did eventually arrive on Earth, Clark was a fully grown adult. She was supposed to be the older cousin, and now he's older than her. And she has this connection with Krypton that Clark will never have, that Clark feels somewhat a bit, in some interpretations, I believe he's felt quite jealous of. But she knows Kryptonian. She can speak Kryptonian. She can read Kryptonian. She's aware of Kryptonian culture. If they were going to say it's fake, that would have been the moment they did it. At the very end of the film, it would have been Kara being like, that's not what that says. That's not what that says at all. And then she says it means something. It means this, which is hopeful and a much different interpretation. But that's not what happens. Now, I don't have an issue with Krypton themselves being corrupt. My Adventures of Superman, from what I remember, does a very similar thing of Krypton are invaders. They are disgusting, like warmongers, from what I remember. They are not good people. But Jor-El is, to what I remember, or at least regrets the path that their planet has come to. And wants Clark to be better than him. If they're going to do Krypton being warmongers or such a thing, that's the take I would want. Because the idea of looking at it from the metaphorical standpoint and what it's trying to say, and to say before the movie comes out, for James Gunn to say, this is the story of an immigrant, and to say, yes, this immigrant came from a society that were conquerors and sent him here to conquer us. He is a secret invader that he didn't realize. And that is a racist stereotype. That is a horribly racist, disgusting thing to do with the character. Because it also confirms Lex's fear that the aliens are here to invade and kill us all, which is not the case. Clark was not here to do that. Clark was here, he was sent out of desperation. And again, the real world allegory to that is a refugee sent to another country to be safe, and racists and people who can't get out of their own head going, no, you're here to do something more sinister. You're here to do something evil. You're here to take me down. You are my enemy, and I will take you down. And this movie gives those people ammo. And I think it also has this terrible message at the end that look, the ending of the film made me tear up a bit because it made me think of my family. But I couldn't get that image out of my head of what it was trying to do. And it's what stopped the ending from really hitting with me. Because in the early parts of the film, Superman shows that when he's healing with the sun's rays, he puts on footage of his family's recording to soothe him. End of the movie, they do the same thing. They say, oh, let me put on footage of your family recording, except it's the Kents now. And it's his family, and it's his memories with the Kents, it's videos and photos, which is very cute, but reads, as a second-gen immigrant, reads as, yes, forget your family, forget the people that sent you here to try to protect you, accept America, accept the people that took you in only, and abandon your culture. That is how that read to me. And it grossed me out. I hated it. Now, in saying that, I can see an argument for it. I'll say right away. I don't think it is a storyline that works for Superman at all. But to play devil's advocate, if you are an orphan, or if you are someone who loves found family, or feels found family is very important to you, this is a story that will be, I think, hit you very hard. Because I think as an orphan, if you watch this and you go, okay, it doesn't matter who my family or my birth families was. It doesn't matter who birthed me. It's about who raised me, who looked out for me, who taught me my ethics. It's about who. It only matters who loved me and continues to love me. For an orphan story, that's great. That's beautiful. That's great. For an immigrant story, it is a very white take, I will say. But from an immigrant's point of view, it can also be relatable to have this culture that you've never been attached to, that you feel like you've always had a wanting to know more, and that you've also been very proud of. You are proud of this culture, you are proud of where you came from, and you wish you knew more, but you never have. To then learn that this culture that you once praised is a lot filthier than you thought it was. It is a lot grimier. It is something probably not to be as strongly proud of, and it's conflicting. And then you can then take that culture as an immigrant and go, well, I'm going to take the good parts of it and I'm going to live through that. And I'm going to take the person I am now and who I am in this moment, and I'm going to continue to try to do good as me. And I think that is a take that is somewhat relatable and that I can see. I've had a similar relationship with my own culture, and I can go, I found out something about my culture that very much shocked me and made me feel very gross about something I thought I should be very proud of. And I have very conflicting thoughts about it. So on that standpoint, I can find it very relatable. But the very important distinction to make about Superman is that, yes, he's an immigrant, but he's specifically a refugee. He is specifically someone sent by a scared family as a last-ditch effort in the hope that their baby will live, sent out into the cold confines of space to find a home that will keep him safe. He is a refugee story, first and foremost. Relatable to immigrants. I find relatable as an immigrant allegory, but as an immigrant tied to being a refugee. And as an allegory for refugees, this movie made me mad. Like, legitimately, it is a terrible message to make. But in saying that, I don't think it's a purposeful message. I think a lot of people, specifically non-immigrant people, and not just white people, because, non-immigrants is not just a thing where like only white people are non-immigrants. There are people around multiple countries who are not immigrants and probably won't see an issue with this story. But there are people who are immigrants in a lot of countries that will see this. And I was interested because I talked to my friends, and I'm an immigrant, and I knew someone else is an immigrant, and I was interested to see what they took away. And they took away a different message from them. They took away a story that felt they had a story. They saw something that to them, how do I say this? As a non-immigrant, they saw something that touched them very close in a way it didn't touch me, which is important. I think it's good that something beautiful did come from this movie, and that people felt seen and were inspired. But I'm just I don't know where my thoughts going. I'm just interested to see the thought processes between immigrants and non-immigrants when it comes to this film. Because I am seeing a lot of non-immigrants on Twitter not see what the issue is and be like, no, this is a fine change. And a lot of immigrants and refugees saying, no. I don't think you realize how deeply this affects the core of the character and the message this movie is now trying to say. Because look at what Mark Wade posted. I've retweeted on my Twitter. Oh my God. What a I will pull it up on stream. What a disgusting thing to say. And I love Mark Wade. I love Mark Wade so much. He's a great writer, really understands Superman. But this blew me away at how gross it felt. And it's in discussion of, it's in relation to Dean Cain. And if you don't know who Dean Cain is, Dean Cain was a actor who played Superman in the 90s, who is the only Superman actor I know who is a Trump supporter, like full and through. It's disgusting. Oh, let me look at your chat. Sorry, I haven't been looking at chat for a while. Let me have a look. But that's such an interesting thing. I do feel like something they'd want to expand more than yeah. I think the way they discussed how linguistics works pissed me off. Yeah. If the recording is real, it should have been described as a story about being disillusioned by his parents, as a coming-of-age story and coming into your own person despite what your parents expect. Yeah, it should have been fake anyway. It should have been fake anyway. It should have been him learning that lesson, but also realizing that his family meant well. Or, maybe it's a mistranslation. Gunn calling the immigrant story was so insensitive and feels so disingenuous to the story of Superman and the reality of immigrant experience. Yeah, I would prefer a non-remorseful Jor-El if they're going with the Krypton invader narrative. Prefer a remorseful Jor-El. Feels contradictory to what it wants to say. Ew, Dean Cain. Yeah, Dean Cain sucks. But this post grossed me out. Please don't listen to the former actor Dean Cain and his attention-starved cohorts. Okay. Despite what conservative media wants to believe, the message of the Superman movie is not rah-rah immigrants, okay? It's look at the amazing values, ethics, and morals someone not from here, no matter their native land, can learn from people who are good and kind Americans. How is that not the most patriotic message imaginable? This feels very white. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. This is someone who is not an immigrant, not understanding the issue. Going, no, but see how amazing America is. It's made people realize like the ethics and morals of America have made this person a good person. Like, that bothers me so much. First of all, the ethics of America, like, motherfucker, seriously? Second of all, this is bad. Because this kind of... God, my brain is fried. This pushes this idea that I mentioned before, that immigrants or refugees to reject their land or where they came from and to go, look at the American way. Look at America. Isn't it amazing? Like it just makes me upset. It is the reason why I'm glad Superman does not say truth, justice, and the American way. Because the American way is not good. And I think a lot of Americans, a lot of white Americans, believe that their country is innately good and innately something about freedom and democracy. And I'm going to tell you right now, no one thinks that about America other than Americans. Because everyone outside of America, even before Trump, looks at that country and goes, wow, what a mess. What an absolute mess. America is a country steeped in blood, steeped in disgusting acts. I can understand being proud of the people there, but to be proud of the country as someone who's not American feels very gross. And there's a lot of white people, a lot of Americans, but even not just Americans specifically, but a lot of Americans do not understand the issue that immigrants will have about this. Because it also relates again to, and I'm not super politically knowledgeable about this, so I might be misspeaking, and I'm sorry if I am, and feel free to correct me if I am. But a lot of Americans, a lot of Anglo-white Americans, do not have a culture they can tie themselves to. They will say, no, I have a culture, I have an American culture. But a lot of American culture is consumerism. It's not a culture. A culture is recipes going back decades and decades and centuries with stories attached to them. It is struggle. It is art. And America has a type of culture. Superman is tied to the American, how do I say this? Richard Donner in an interview said that Superman is tied to Americana and this idea of American culture, which is very important in the American landscape. And that's true. I think stories like Superman is what you could call American culture to an extent. But even then, that's tied to other cultures. I'm kind of repeating myself, and maybe I'm misspeaking, and I'm sorry about that if I am. But I really do think that James Gunn did not mean to make such a rash gross message in his film. I think he had good intentions. I think this is the message he usually puts in most in his film, which is found family. He seems to have a big issue with birth parents, and I don't think he's adopted, but he seems to love his parents, so I'm not sure where that comes from, but his work, it shows. Guardians has it. The Suicide Squad has elements of it. I mean, Peacemaker has it fully. The idea of like, your birth parents, you don't have to believe them, but these adoptive parents and these people that are like your parents, like, they love you. I think he had good intentions, but it is very obviously a idea that a non-immigrant had. It is an idea of, what if Krypton was bad? What if Jor-El was and Kara was evil and had bad intentions? I think only an immigrant would think that. Sorry, not an immigrant. I think only a non-immigrant would think that. And that is not a hard. That's not a one-to-one rule. I think there are some immigrants that do not realize the power that change would have, and I think there are a lot of non-immigrants that will realize the power that change have. I know in the US for older immigrants, it is rather common to have the view. Yeah, this is true. I know it is rather common to have the viewpoint of, if you come here the right way and do right things, you'll be all right. But I wish they had someone to tell. 100%. There are a lot of immigrants that have this kind of viewpoint based on a form of trauma of having to conform to society and being like, you have to do it right, you have to do what the American way, you have to do it, like, that's another thing, good reason why they took out the American way. There are a lot of immigrants that go into, like, you have to be a good immigrant, you have to listen to the rules, you have to follow everything right, you can't antagonize, you have to conform, and that's the message this film feels like it's giving. It feels like the ending is looking at the camera and saying, and make sure you conform and are proud of this country, America. And that made me feel gross. And it is of American culture I can think of is based on immigrant culture and Black American culture. Yes, exactly that. I could see someone making an argument for stuff. I think America has elements of culture, but again, a lot of that comes from other cultures. A lot of that is built from immigrant experience. You have that in New York. New York is filled with Jewish people, Italian, like, so many different communities and cultures coming together to support one another. It is an immigrant town. Same with LA. And I can see, if you're going to look at like pure, gross. But if you're going to look at strictly like American culture, white American culture, I can see someone trying to make an argument that the American South has culture tied to it. Country music, barbecuing, this feeling of helping your neighbor. I can see people making an argument for that's a culture in of itself. But it's also a culture built off the back of racism and xenophobia and the Civil War. And it's not the type of culture that a bunch of other countries have. And that's also the distinction people make from, like, where this is also such a showing point of how political Superman is as a character, because we started this review talking about like the wacky alien stuff and goofy, crazy characters that show up, and ended it talking about the political ramifications of what culture really is and what it means to be white and what it means to be an immigrant. Like, that is comic books. That is Superman. Superman is an innately political character that will always have these politics attached to him. And I will say, even after saying all this, even after feeling this way, this kind of gross feeling in my stomach every time I watch this movie, those scenes play on, and I'm trying to find a way to justify it, but I just can't. Even in saying that, this movie is still very, very good. That's how incredible it is. Like, that it has this bad of a thing in it, but I'm still willing to defend it. Because even though it misses that bad, the other political thing, the allegory for Israel and Palestine, that is handled much better. In the interview between Lois and Clark, Lois says, Superman before the film stops a war. They say war, genocide from happening. Superman stops another country from invading another under grounds that have no concrete to them. And the movie is going off the political ramifications of that choice. And in an interview between Lois and Superman, Lois says, like, well, you know, the country said they had reasons, that country is politically volatile and dangerous, and Bulgaria, who's the country that invades, has good ties with the US. And Clark basically goes, yeah, but you know that's all. He doesn't say bullshit because he's that's another reason this take is a bit iffy for me. It's a take on Superman where he's like, I don't swear, I say like, that's very silly, instead of saying that's bullshit. And like, I like Country Boy Superman, but sometimes I think Superman should say, you're bullshitting me. I think sometimes Superman should say that, because really, that's what he says. He says, that's bullshit. We all know that's bullshit. They are not defending themselves. They are, like, no matter what history that other country has, there is no justification for another country invading it and committing genocide. Like, the movie puts its foot on the ground and says, this is wrong. There is no, you can try to find some way around it politically, and you can go, well, you know, they're friends of America and blah blah blah. It does not matter. Like, Clark kills the conversation very quickly, like he does in the trailer, by just saying people were going to die. And that is the most important part about this. It was wrong, and he stepped in and he stopped it. And the stuff with that, done very well. It feels like they got 90% of the political messaging correct, but man, that 10% does sound... Yeah, 90% of it is correct, and that 10%, I don't think Gunn realized, that 10% has now become 80%. If you know what I'm trying... It's like... how do I say this? It's like you've got... like when you're brewing alcohol, and you're brewing a spirit. And when you brew a spirit, you have all this alcohol coming down and dripping down. And 95% of it is alcohol. And only 5% of it, a tiny amount, is methanol at the very bottom of the glass. But that 5% is enough to kill someone, is enough to do very bad damage to people. And that's what that feels like to me. It is 95% of a beautiful whiskey with 5% of methanol that makes me regurgitate a little and go, what the fuck? And it's damn good whiskey. And if you take out the methanol, it's a perfect whiskey. But it's there. It's a small part, but it has a massive taste to it that leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. I also think it has ramifications for that. It has other ramifications for that ending, for that political story. This Superman, to me... What's my point? What am I trying to say? I had it. What was it? This is a Superman... The film does feel like it has to say its story very clearly. Like, multiple times, it has to say, like, this is who I am. I'm Superman. This is me. This is who I am. I'm Lex Luthor. This is me. And I think that's great because, in a sense, because Superman has not had a good representation in years. And it is a very good representation of who Superman is. It is Superman who is human, who struggles, who feels fear. He's a human just like any of us. Yes, he's an alien, but he's still human, really. And it does that part great. But this, to me, doesn't feel like... This is Superman... Truth, Justice, and a Better Tomorrow. And honestly, even if Gunn didn't realize, it is Superman, Truth, Justice, and the American Way. But this isn't strongly, which is I think, A, the most important part of the character. B, my favorite part of the character. It is not as much Superman championing the oppressed. That's what he was in Action Comics 1. That's what he was originally envisioned to be. Superman championing the oppressed. And he is, I mean, again, stops a genocide from happening, saves people who cannot save themselves, incredibly kind, incredibly caring. But I don't see this Superman doing what Reeve Superman did in Superman of the Moment. That, to me, is the ultimate, like, thing of do you have a good Superman? Do you have a perfect, not good, you can have a good Superman. To have a perfect Superman, I need to see this Superman walk into a crowded mob of humans, break their guns, and saying, stop acting like Nazi stormtroopers. If I can see your Superman doing that, you've perfected Superman. I can see the DCAU Superman doing that. I can see Christopher Reeve's Superman, honestly. I can see him doing that. He basically does that in Superman 4. I can see Superman and Lois Superman doing that, which is my personal favorite live action take on Superman. But I don't know if I can see this Superman doing that. There was a lot of fear that James Gunn was reading a lot of the 80s Superman run, which people post-Crisis. And people don't like that run because it takes away the Superman championing the press aspect of him. It is a conservative writing Superman, and you can tell. And the fact that Gunn, I understand why Gunn draws that so much, because that's when he started reading comics. That's his childhood Superman. But that is a Superman looking back on, every comic fan has issues with. Every Superman fan dislikes, because it feels like it goes against so much of what the character stood for. In The Dark Knight Returns, Superman sides with Ronald Reagan. And a lot of people saw this as, oh, this is how terrible Superman was in the 80s. They had him up against Ronald Reagan. But a reading I saw, which I think is probably the reading it meant, is that Dark Knight Returns is not saying, yeah, Superman would side with Ronald Reagan. It's saying this is what the 80s Superman has become. It is a shadow of who he used to be. It's someone who would shake hands with a bastard, with one of the most evil people on the planet. This is what people think Superman is in the 80s. And it's very uncomfortable that that's where Gunn took so much inspiration for this character. But overall, and crazy to say this after going on that big rant, overall, I do like this movie. I cried multiple times. There are elements of it that I think are very endearing. I think it's an important message of hope, of love. There is a line in this movie that is I love, which is Lois saying how punk rock she is versus how Clark is. And Lois saying how you're always so loving and caring and kind to everyone you meet. And Clark saying, well, maybe that's the real punk rock. And yeah, that got me a little. Because it is now in the society subversive to be kind and loving to people. To look at your neighbor and to talk to them. To talk to your neighbor on the street. To help someone with a pram in the middle of the day, to talk to people on the train, to give a smile to someone passing by, to help where you can, to just not be cynical is against the grain now. It is something people need to fight to be and learn to be. In this current political climate, it's kind of punk. And I think that is a beautiful message for this movie. But another issue I have with this film's message, which I'll get to in a sec after reading the comments, because I haven't read the chat for a second. Yeah, it's a great analogy. Thank you, William. I know it wasn't their intention, but as someone that hasn't watched it yet, it does feel a bit like you could have people that have the right viewpoints, except for this one rather big thing. And now the viewer, like a family member, has to grapple with their relationship with this knowledge and learn how to adapt to it. Yeah, definitely. He's not a political activist as a superhero. He just wants to be a friend to all. Yes. Superman needs to be both. He needs to be a friend to everyone, a friend to the innocent, but also someone fighting for the good. Like you can have a family member who you thought always had good viewpoints on things, and then suddenly learn they voted for Trump and having to grapple with that not being able to leave them. I think this movie is probably very relatable for a lot of white people because it kind of plays into white guilt. If I'm being honest, it plays into this view of like, oh my god, my family, the people that came before me, are terrible, and it's saying like, well, that doesn't mean you're terrible. And again, yeah, that is something that a lot of people might find relatable, and being like, okay, just because the people around me are terrible, just because I was raised by terrible people, doesn't mean I'm terrible. I can be better. I can do better. I can be a good person. I can help the people around me. which again is a good message, but not for Superman. That's my major issue in this. If this was a different superhero, if this was a different movie, I don't have an issue with the message. Well, I have an issue with the message still, but less of an issue. The fact that it's attached to Superman himself is such a negative to me. Which I feel can dull when it has such a strong message against war and invasion. Definitely. I think he can become more of a champion of the oppressed figure, but I fear they might not be able to show his more political, active, and radical side when the Justice League does expand. Yeah. It's also why we had the family viewing hour here, because the broadcast stations thought America wanted to go very conservative. Yeesh. I had one big point about the end of this film. I discussed how this doesn't feel like Superman Champion of the Oppressed. There is one massive thing. What was it? Hey. Oh, that's it. This movie didn't inspire me to go do good, which might be a controversial take. It inspired. There is a quote by Grant Morrison that says, "Hope is nothing without action," and there's a quote by another philosopher that says the same thing, which I can't remember. It's a very good quote. But like Grant Morrison says, like they say, Superman didn't come from Hope comics; he came from Action comics. Hey, imagine. Oh, wait. What do you mean hi? What did you hear the whole time? What do you mean hi? What's going on? Hi. What was I saying? Right. There's a quote by Grant Morrison that says that Superman did not come from Hope comics; he came from Action comics. And people are very sick of seeing just hope. Oh, I have hope. I have hope. Hope is nothing without action. Oh, I waved at the camera. Sorry. Hi. Hope is nothing without action. To just sit here and be like, wow, I have a lot of hope that things will turn out better is nothing. That's nothing. And this movie does try to show with the Justice Gang that by the end of it, they turn on their kind of corporate feel and go, no, we're going to do good. And the people being invaded, and I'm so sorry, it's Johannesburg. I can't remember. It starts with a J. They said Bavaria way more in this movie, and I cannot remember the other country's name, which is a bad. But that country, at the end, about to be invaded, the Justice Gang steps in. And it's saying that Superman's hope and kindness encourage them to do good. But I think my personal favorite take on Superman is when he inspires people to be good. And I saw someone bring this up. I think... No. This is an opinion I got for myself. Shin Ultraman. Oh, by the way, Ultraman in this movie is Bizarro. And he's definitely coming back later. And he was done pretty well. Ultraman, Johannesburg. Thank you, Will. Shin Ultraman and Godzilla -1 had a better, had more feeling of a hope at the end of it. It made me feel like I wanted to go out there and do good and do better and be better and encourage people and help people. And that is because Ultraman as a character has this tie to him that he's not a god. That he is simply here to help humans and to lead them into like doing something good. And Shin Ultraman ends in not Ultraman saving the day, but humanity coming together to save the day, to save the planet. It is because of their courage and their, it is because of their courage and their hope and their efforts that they were able to save their planet with the help of Ultraman, but really humans are the ones that saved it. Ultraman was just someone to help inspire them to do good and go out there and help. It even touches on in the movie that people feel hopeless next to Ultraman, thinking like, well, if Ultraman can't defeat it, what am I going to do? And then Ultraman gets defeated. And people go, well, I guess we give up and we die. And Ultraman, I forget who it was, says, no, we need to be like Ultraman. We have to go there. We have to save the world. Godzilla -1 has that ending of people coming together to come and stop Godzilla as a group, as not even as a country, as people coming together to do an act of good, helping one another, one hand in front of the other, saving the world from Godzilla. People saved it. So at the end of this film, to inspire that feeling of hope, or to go out there and to do good and to be good, and that the world can be better, I wanted this movie to make people go, I can help. But it didn't, because the people who saved the day were superheroes. And I kind of hoped that at the end of this film, it would be a lot of humans coming together to stop the threat. It would be maybe humans coming together to stop the invasion, maybe to shit on Lex, to put Lex down, to come and help Superman. I don't think this movie shows that very strongly. And I think his message struggles for that. Because I even seen on social media, I saw someone say that the movie made them sad because it reminded them that in real life, no one's going to come and save us like Superman. And that is the opposite of what a Superman story should tell you and should give you. It shouldn't give you this loss of hope that there's no one here like Superman. It should make you go, well, if Superman's not real, I'll be Superman. It should make people go, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do good and I'm going to help any way I can. That's what a Superman story should do. It should inspire hope in yourself and in your friends and family and the people you're with to go out and help people. And hope as well that you're not the only one fighting. It's not an effortless fight. There are other people around you helping you and fighting with you and for you. And this movie, I think, didn't nail that. Didn't really nail that. Which is a massive shame. So, a lot of thoughts. In saying all that, which I've already said, but in saying all of that, my final thoughts on the film is, go and watch it. Make your own opinion on it. I think, like I said, even people who have that massive issue, the movie's just so good at the heart of it that it comes off as a 6 at worst. And a 6 is still pretty good. A 6 is a pass in Australia. It passed. It's still a good film. Not a perfect film. It's a film I'll probably watch a 4th time. It's a film that'll probably encourage a lot of good things in people. It'll probably help a lot of people. But it's not a perfect film. But it is a film I think a lot of people need right now. And I saw a tweet that said, maybe I think it's more important what the movie was trying to do rather than what it did do. And it was trying to instill hope, and it was trying to say something, and in that way it kind of did. And it started a conversation. And it's going to help people help people. It's almost similar to me on the Kendrick Lamar, made this comparison before, the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. People wanted it to be further left-leaning, like harder takes. But if he went too hard, he wouldn't have been able to do the halftime show. They would have taken it from him. So he did as much as he did. He could. Could it have been more? Sure. But really, it couldn't have been. But it was enough because the second that halftime show got off air, everyone was breaking apart. Everyone was talking about it. And it did what it was supposed to do. It started a discussion. And it got people talking. And it got people thinking. And that's what I think this movie will do. It will get people talking and get people thinking. And the discussion will come up. And I think for that, I like this movie. I will get it on Blu-ray. I will watch it again in the cinemas. I will watch it with anyone who asks me if they want to watch it. I will encourage people to watch it and make their own decision. I still think 78 is a better film than this. Maybe it's my nostalgia. Maybe it's just I prefer the take of Superman. I think Superman the Mole Man is my favorite film interpretation of the character, whereas Superman and Lois is my favorite take on Superman as a character as a whole. But this movie is pretty fucking good. It is pretty damn good. Now, final reading of chat before we end for the night. I've been talking for an hour and a half. Holy shit. I think it's a good source of inspiration for younger people, 100%. But it is not a force of change, definitely. I do believe it's still a force for good, though. Yeah, it gives people hope that the world will not turn to shit. It's something that kind of Superman 4 left me with. Superman 4 ends with Superman giving a speech of, like, the world is just out how it should be, Lex. With good and evil battling each other, teetering on each edge. And every time evil teeters a little bit up, good will teeter over it. And that's something people need to be reminded. Every time it looks dour, good will always come. Maybe not equal, but there is always good. This review did remind me that I got to email my governor again to pass universal health care. Hell yeah, do that. Do that. Getting grew on the phone when I watch the film in theaters. Hell yeah, just put me up like in a little seat on video, and I'm like, whoa, this looks so different through an iPhone. I have to remember that entertainment isn't activism, definitely, and nothing sponsored by big corporations can really lead radical action. It can't lead radical action, that's true, but I do think it can start a discussion, and discussions lead to action. Or maybe I'm just talking about us, I don't know. But I think this will do good for a lot of people. They could have done more, but I'm surprised they did what they were able to do. But exactly of what do you expect from big corporate? Like, it's still art, but it's also corporate entertainment. There's only so much it can be. But, okay. That is my thoughts on the film. I don't know what else I could say. I do think that even small things can lead to more action. Definitely. It's the butterfly effect. Or it's one domino going at a bigger domino and a bigger domino. And people usually use that as a negative effect of one small bad thing going to a bigger thing, doing a bigger thing to a bigger thing. But it's the same with good. One small good thing can lead to another good thing, which can lead to another good thing, which can lead to something great. And I think this movie is a what's it called? Domino. This movie is a domino. It is the first innately political superhero blockbuster in a while. And I think it's going to encourage a lot of other films to be a bit more political, maybe, hopefully. God, please. And I think it's going to start the tipping point for a lot of people. I think it's going to start people into discussions, into, well, how can I be that? How can I be better? I think it could have done a better job. But I think it's the start of something. People joke about why moms who make cringe posters at protests, but they're still going to be talking right. That's the thing. That's the thing. Twitter is not real. And while some Twitter stuff is very important, at the end of the day, there are a lot of people on Twitter that will shit on people at protests, being like, wow, what a cringe sign. They're out there. They are stepping up and they're fighting for people. Are they a bit cringy while they're doing it? Sure. Maybe, but they're still fighting. It's the same way where I'm not pissed off at people who watched Andor and got radicalized by it because something talked to them and something made them go, no, this is wrong. This is happening in the real world. I need to stop it. The Andor subreddit is looking very, very close to looking like a far left leaning subreddit. It is fascinating. And I think we are seeing a lot of people wanting to fight. Maybe that's just me being too hopeful. Maybe that's just me hoping for the best and hoping it leads this way. But hope's the name of the game right now. Hope's the name of the game with this movie. So that's all just in my head. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I hope I'm not. And with that, I'm going to end the review. I'm going to end the video. And for people watching this on the edit, hi. Subscribe, I guess. Bye. And for everyone watching this on the stream, all 5 of you, thanks so much for coming. Interesting conversation. Talk about the movie on the Discord. We have a Discord that you can join. Make sure you spoiler tag it. And I will happily have conversations with people about this on the Discord. I could talk about this movie nonstop. And I am also so fascinated in hearing other people's perspectives of it. So if you've watched it, jump in the Discord, talk to me about it, tell me what you think. I'd love to talk to you about it. But now, it's kind of late. Is it actually that late? I think it's only 9. It's 9:55. It's late, I guess. I am having acid reflux. I need to drink water. I'm going to see you guys. I'm going to go read... Oh, quickly before I go. If this movie makes you want to read more comics or makes you want to read a better representation of Superman, read Superman Birthright, read Superman vs. the Klan, or Smash vs. the Klan, and read Kingdom Come. This movie takes a lot from Kingdom Come. The ending, which is the government realizing that the metahumans might have control over this planet more than the politicians do, that is taken straight from Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come isn't perfect, but very interesting story. I recommend reading it. That's all I got to say. I hope you guys have a great day, evening, wherever you are. Inject that hopium straight into your veins. Try to be better people. Try to be the best person you can be. Try to do good. Bye.